So it appears that Putin's playing chicken. I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. It is Friday, January 17th, 2025. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide you with context in the war in Ukraine. So, what do I mean by chicken? Chicken, I don't mean he's scared. It's an English idiom, and it means to engage in mutual challenges or threats, hoping that the opponent will withdraw before the actual conflict or collision. And so, if you go back to the movie Rebel Without a Cause, for example, from the 1950s, James Dean is the main character. He gets into like knife fights and stuff like that, and he's playing chicken. Well, what is a chicken run? So there's a couple ways. Two cars can go head on at each other, hoping the other person's going to swerve at the last moment. Or in this case, they actually were both going toward a cliff and trying to be the last person to stop. And it didn't work out well for the other guy who went over the cliff and died. But that's the kind of thing that's happening. And we'll talk about how he's playing chicken in just a moment. But first, let's look at what's happened. Just to update 1,670 Russians off the battlefield day over day. 12 tanks, 13 armored fighting vehicles, 4 artillery systems, 124 vehicles and fuel tanks. This kind of number is what's causing Andrew Perpetua's life to be pretty miserable right now. And we'll talk about some of these updates from almost a week ago at this point. But 1670, how high is that? Well, that's the 19th highest day, or tie for the 19th highest day in the war so far. And if we look at the days, like December, the average casualties per day, 1666 average in December, it's 1566, and in January it's 1564. So it's about as high as it was in the highest month, and probably will be slightly higher by the end of the month, in my estimation. Okay, Andrew Perpetua's list for the 8th, it looks like it was pretty even on the 8th. If we look at this, maybe a little bit more than 1 to 1, maybe 1.5, not quite 1.5 to 1. And then if we look at the 9th, I know we're going back days, but yeah, it's about 2, not quite 3 to 1. And then if we look at the 10th, and again, he doesn't go beyond this, it's about 3 to 1. Russian losses to Ukrainian losses of like trucks and vehicles and fuel tanks and stuff like that. Okay, Ukraine's Air Force reports a Shahed drone attack overnight. It was just Shaheds, 50 launched, 33 shot down, another 9 suppressed by electronic warfare. Some got through and did some damage. So Russia just struck a school and residential buildings in Kryvyi Rih. The number of victims remains unknown. Now, I saw reports after that said 4 injured or killed, and then later I saw 7, and that number I'm sure will keep growing. Okay. There was no Ukrainian drone strike on Russia that was reported last night that I saw, but the fire at the oil depot in Lisky has grown. There are now 4 fuel tanks burning there. This is from a previous strike a couple of days ago. Here's another view of that same thing. This is the 3rd day. It's spreading to more tanks with each passing day. And then let's look at Engels, the 4th day of the oil depot in Engels, Saratov region, Russia burning after the 2nd attack. Local authorities assure that the burning area has decreased. But when I'm looking at this picture and they say that the burning area has decreased, I'm thinking, good grief, what was the size of the thing before? Even now, Russian oil depot in Engels is still on fire. It's almost 10 days since the first attack. So there was 10 days ago an attack, and then it basically was about put out, just maybe put out, almost, it was close to being put out, and then another attack, and yeah, now you see what happened. Okay, yesterday I titled this, Putin's actions today could have sparked World War III. Now, I'm not given to being hyperbolic. I don't do that sort of thing, but yesterday was really bad. This is what I mean by Putin playing chicken, because there was an attack on Kyiv when Russia knew that Keir Starmer was there. So what was he doing? he's sending a message, but it could have gone very, very wrong starting World War III. Like, there are a number of scenarios where something could go spin out of control and bad things happen. So I thought it would be best to listen to Johnny Pierce at ATP Geopolitics to get kind of a British perspective of this. By the way, if you're not a subscriber to ATP Geopolitics, he does an excellent job of keeping you updated on everything related to the war in Ukraine. Check that out. Okay,
2025. We're going to talk military aid, and we're going to start with Keir Starmer being over in Kyiv at the moment. Now, I didn't emphasize this enough, and I just need to make sure, I know it's a bit of geopolitics at the beginning of this military aid video, but the timing of Keir Starmer's visit to Ukraine is not coincidental. At least that's what many analysts are saying. He has chosen to go at this time just before the inauguration and Trump taking control in the US. I think this is, and I agree with other analysts, that this is I was listening to LBC News in the UK, the radio station today, where they had a long section on this, talking about how this is sending a signal to Ukraine, but also to the US possibly, and to the world, to say, look, the UK is standing with Ukraine, and we have signed a 100-year deal agreement with.
And by the way, I didn't actually talk about that part because I was so like, whoa, they attacked Kyiv while he's there. And that's a big story that I just didn't even really talk about. The 100-year agreement is a big story. But the bigger story was you almost started World War III if something had gone awry while you're trying to send this message that you're going to, I'm going to show you. Okay.
With Ukraine, which is to say, we're not abandoning you, whatever happens with the US. And it sends a signal to Trump to say, oh, okay, right, which side of the coin should we be, betting on here? Should we try and support Ukraine more? And in fact, we're starting to hear some interesting stuff coming out from the United States, such as sanctions. So they're planning on trying the sanctions route, which is exactly what I wanted. The thing I was most worried about is Trump would come in and lift the sanctions, because literally that's what he had previously said at the Economic Club of New York, I think it was. But
discount whatever Trump says. Trump says lots of stuff. I mean, you can't. He's not trying to speak for precision. He's just saying hyperbolic stuff, and he'll just keep saying hyperbolic stuff. So don't worry about that. I know a lot of you are really concerned that he said this thing that he's gonna do it on day one. It's not happening on day one. He's gonna lift sanctions. He's not gonna. Well, he's gonna use sanctions as a bargaining chip in order to try to get concessions out of Russia.
I don't think he knew enough about the war in Ukraine, which is one of my big criticisms, is that shut up if you don't know what you're talking about until you do know what you're talking about, and then say stuff.
And that may be fair, that he may not have known enough about it, and that's a good analysis.
Because otherwise he says things and then he does something completely different, and then people say, oh, you shouldn't have taken him literally. Well, actually, no, he should have shut up and then learnt more and then said his piece. And now we're starting to hear there's some bad things, like Mike Turner being dropped because of pressure apparently from MAGA representatives in Congress. But Mike Turner, the Intelligence Committee chair of that, the Republican, has been dropped. Unfortunately, that's bad news. Good news is that the Americans might be trying to continue actually this journey of increasing sanctions on Russia. We've seen them really ramp up recently. Biden administration too late, well, not too late, but late to do that. They should have been much stronger, much earlier. But I think this is going to really bite. And I think the Trump administration probably realizes there's a lot of leverage there. So anyway, Keir Starmer.
Now, both of those things are true. It's a shame that they removed Mike Turner. He was awesome for Ukraine, and they are ramping things up. And I agree, too little, too late. Like, why did this come at the end of Biden's administration? You could have done this months or even years ago.
So Keir Starmer is in Kyiv now. I don't know if he still is, but he was there today. And that was a very cleverly timed visit. Now, this is the 7th time they've met. So it's not like Keir Starmer has not been supportive of Ukraine and Zelensky. Some people have criticized Keir Starmer for waiting 6 months to go there, but actually Zelensky had been in the UK a whole bunch of times. So they've met abroad as well. So this is the 7th time in 6 months that Keir Starmer has met Zelensky. If that's not a lot, that's more than once a month. Keir Starmer is meeting Zelensky, so that's really good. Like, I'm being quite pro-UK here because I think this is a really good set of signals that we're hearing today. So what was also interesting, almost did a breaking news update if I wasn't so busy with a billion things on at the moment, that Russia knew Keir Starmer was there and then attacked Kyiv today with drones, possibly missiles. There was a lot of sort of gunfire and anti-air air defenses going off. This looks rather like Russia saying we're at war with the UK. Yep. They have targeted Kyiv knowing that the UK's Prime Minister was going to be there. I think
that is absolutely crazy. That's what I mean by Putin is playing chicken. Right.
That's highly controversial. I'd like to see the international community. I'd like to see the UK answer that. I expect they'll just kind of go, oh, yeah, nothing to see here. But actually, that's, again, a form of like waging war. We need to, I think, explicitly recognize this. Anyway, Keir Starmer.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if the Russians knew, and they certainly would have known, that Keir Starmer was there and did that anyway, that's playing chicken. Now, again, I didn't talk about the 100-year partnership that I should have spent more time on, but I was more concerned about like, whoa, if that went south, that could have been World War III right there. Okay, UK donates 150 artillery pieces and 15 mobile air defense systems to Ukraine. I'm delighted to announce today that we're providing 150 artillery pieces that have been manufactured in the United Kingdom and delivered in just a few weeks. And 2 prototypes of the air defense systems were tested in Ukraine in September, and 15 more will be tested this year. So, yeah, provide the armaments, let them test them, and move on. That's a great use. Now, Greg Terry was talking about this kind of thing as well yesterday. He was talking about the 100-year partnership and the transfer of the artillery and that sort of thing. But then he added this, and we're going to listen to him for just a few moments as well. If you're not subscribed to Greg Terry's channel, he's physically in Ukraine right now, running the front lines, running humanitarian aid.
President Zelensky, in his evening address, where he looks at his phone and he talks to the nation, usually 3, 4, 5 minutes. He updates them on his day. He talked about something that's very, very unique. And he used the word secret. Secret. Now, Russia running with it. Okay, some secret deal. Great. Let them run with it. Here it is. Listen, a couple of minutes, couple seconds here. Zelensky tonight.
Greetings, dear Ukrainians. Today's been eventful. The British PM's visit and a historic deal signing. This marks a new era in Ukraine-UK relations, setting a precedent for partnerships with other nations. It boosts our defense and security cooperation. This year, Britain's military aid totals $6.6 billion. Over $3 billion would be annual, long-term support. This commitment is crucial and will adapt to our needs. The deal also covers economic, tech, and educational collaboration, including joint university development. There's a confidential section too, enhancing our resilience and growth potential. Today, with Britain's PM, we met Ukrainian drone makers. These weapons made here are most cost-effective in Europe. We're constantly improving our drones.
And let me tell you something, guys. They have to constantly improve their drones. We're with the 28th for the last day or so, and we were able to talk with them confidentially. Can't really share it publicly. It's not allowed to. But amount the Dennis can share with you, and he did last night. If you missed that, go back. He was talking about drones. But let me tell you something. It's a drone war.
That's right.
Ukraine now leading the technology in drones, probably globally, along with Russia, to be honest. I mean,
that's right. So it's a drone war. And I keep telling you that. I keep highlighting that. I keep focusing on that because everything is shifted significantly where a $1,000 drone can take out a $5 million or a $500,000 tank. So, yeah. Okay. Now, Romania put fighter jets in the air overnight as a response to Russian drone attacks on Ukrainian towns along the Danube River. So they put their fighter jets in the air and did nothing. And in fact, what you see is that there's footage of a Russian drone that crashed in Tulcea County in Romania after an attack. But nothing will happen because Putin's been playing chicken. Now, yesterday the stakes were higher, but here he's playing chicken. He knows the Romanians aren't going to do anything. NATO's not going to do anything about this. And so he's going to keep doing what he's doing. Okay, North Korean contingent of roughly 1,200 or 12,000 personnel currently in the Kursk Oblast may be killed or wounded in action by mid-April of 2025. So, should the North Korean forces continue to suffer from their current high loss rate in the future, at this rate, they'll be out by April. Now, at this rate, at the current rate, the Russians will be to 1 million casualties by May. So, like, wrap that around your mind. Okay, cross direction, only 47 attacks. It's weird to even say only 47 attacks yesterday. But that's kind of where we are in this war, where we're talking about there's only 47 attacks at this point. Okay, it was 60 or north of 60 in the last 2 days. That's why I say only 47. Okay, just two other quick stories. The New York Times reveals that the previously classified support for Ukrainian drone program development that's been going on here, the outgoing Biden administration declassified the extensive contributions to Ukraine's drone program, including funding, intelligence sharing, and tech support. So they've been helping them along in the background, but this has only been revealed just now. And then finally, this is big. France has held military operations or military exercises in preparation for the potential deployment, they haven't actually done anything, potential deployment of troops to the territory of Ukraine. The per se exercise lasted 10 days in the fall of 2024 at a training range in France, and about 3,200 military personnel took part in it. During the maneuvers, the reflection of a potential breakthrough of the Russian troops into Ukraine from the territory of Belarus was practiced. So that's what they were bracing against if they were to send peacekeepers to Ukraine and deploy them on the northern border with Belarus. The area chosen for the exercise resembled a bend in the Dnieper River north of Kyiv. According to Intelligence Online, the main goals of the drills were to practice the use of drones and electronic warfare. Okay, last little bit. I saw this meme and I thought, hey, this actually fits really nicely with the playing chicken and that kind of thing that we're talking about today. When you're dead, you don't know that you're dead. The pain is felt by others. The same thing happens when you're stupid. Okay, well, that's all that I have for you today, my friends. I'll be back to update you later on with the three big stories later in the day. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.